Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you. And candidates who came out, a special thank you to you. I was the lone person on our committee who said, I don't think we should do it tonight. But everyone else wanted to proceed. So here we are. Let's see. I need to use these glasses. I'm using glasses that I forgot mine at home. Okay. So this is sponsored by Canterbury Citizens for Democracy, CC4D. It's been around for quite a number of years, and we've been sponsoring these forums for more than 5 years. And I have to thank Arnie Alpert because our group has pretty much focused on state and national issues about justice and democracy, equality. And he said, well, what about democracy here in Canterbury? So he initiated the idea of having forums so we would get to know our local candidates. Tonight, Jessica Treadway has agreed to be our moderator. And thank you, Jessica. And for people who weren't able to get here tonight, Martha tells me that tomorrow Belmont has the school board candidates, so that you can see that on either YouTube, is that it?
I think it's also town candidates, is that right?
Would you say it again?
It's going to be the school board candidates plus the town candidates from Belmont and Canterbury. It's going to be important part.
Okay, great, thanks. And then just to remind you that Tuesday is voting day up at the elementary school. And there'll be 2 ballots, one for the school. Oh, here, thank you. Good, thanks. Starting at?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Oh, we have the right people to answer that question. And you'll get 2 ballots, one for the school board and one for town officials. And then Friday night will be the second part of that, and that will be the town meeting, and that is at the elementary school, starting at 7 p.m. Yes? Okay, yes, okay. So we'll start with school board candidates. They'll have an opportunity to share about themselves with you. We'll have questions after that. And then we'll have town candidates, and again, questions after that. And Alan Hodgson is going to be timing, so we have equal amount of times for each candidate. Did I miss something? Okay, great. Jessica, you want to start?
Alrighty, hi everyone. Thanks for coming out on this snowy Tuesday evening. Glad to see everybody here. As she said, my name is Jessica Treadway. I've been in town since 2013. Looking to get involved more. Excited to take on town moderator. Not so excited to follow Jim Miller because that's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. So a couple of things. There are emergency exits located at the front and rear of the building, and the restrooms are located by the rear exit. Looks like we're expecting to wrap up by 8:30, and I think most of the candidates actually made it. So we may go the full time, but we can assess as we go on if we need to cut it short or move on longer. Each candidate, she said, will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and 2 minutes to answer each question. And name tags are on the table, candidates, so as you come up to the stage, please grab your name tag, bring it to the podium and place it on the podium while you speak so everybody knows who you are. And that is all I have. So we will start with the school board candidates. There is 1 seat open for Canterbury and 2 seats open for Belmont. Canterbury is Alice Todd running uncontested. And for Belmont, there is Mark Ekberg, Ann Cheshire, who was unable to make it this evening, Mike Schofield, and Jessica Haggett. So if the 3 of you would like to take the stage at this time, grab your name tags, come up and have a seat, and we'll get started with your introductions. I said 3, there's 4 of the 5. Okay, so we'll start right here on my left. We'll start with Alice Todd. Timer, are you ready? Okay.
All right, I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna put this. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Alice Todd. I am running for re-election on the school board for Canterbury. I'm running for re-election because I think that this work matters, and because I think experience matters, especially right now. Over the past term, I focused on strengthening policy, improving clarity, and ensuring that our decisions are thoughtful, transparent, and sustainable. My work on the policy committee reflects how I approach the role. I read the details, I ask the questions, I understand the long-term implications, and make sure that we improve, what we approve truly serves the students and the Chicago regional community. We're entering a critical period. Collective bargaining is ahead of us. Open enrollment is coming, and state funding continues to shift. These are not small issues. They require steady leadership and careful attention to detail. In our most recent budget cycle, we saw how specific contract language, such as naming a specific health insurance plan in a collective bargaining agreement, can specifically limit flexibility. That lack of flexibility contributed to a $1.2 million increase when costs rose. Those are the kinds of structural issues that require thoughtful review and responsible negotiation. This isn't about cutting, it's about sustainability. It's about protecting programs for students while also respecting taxpayers. I'm running because I deeply care about our district, and I believe strong governance requires preparation, diligence, and the ability to address these complex issues head on. Thank you.
Sorry? Yeah, we'll just go over it downstairs.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me out tonight. My name is Mike Schofield. And I've been a resident in Belmont for about 20 years, give or take. My wife, Robin, is a Belmont native, and both my children, Brendan and Morgan, attended Chicago Regional School District schools. Brendan is a 2025 graduate of BHS, and Morgan is currently a freshman at Belmont High School. I'm the plumbing and heating instructor over at the Hewitt Technical Center in Laconia, New Hampshire. I'm working on my 15th year over there. In that role, I have an opportunity to teach students from 7 different school districts, including the students from Chicago Regional. I'm also the owner of Stoves Plumbing and Heating, a local plumbing business in the Belmont area. And I've been operating that business since 2005. I'm a master plumber, I'm a licensed gas fitter, I'm a graduate of Granite State College. Over the years, I've been involved in the district in different capacities as a parent, as a fan, and as a coach. I also have had the opportunity to be a presenter at the middle school career day in the past and brought my students to teach the middle schoolers some of the skills used in the plumbing and heating trade. Being a plumbing and heating teacher has offered me the opportunity to help students on an avenue into licensed trade after graduation, as well as offer them the opportunity to earn college credit prior to graduation through the Community College of New Hampshire system, early college program, towards their HVAC degree, which saves them time and money, which is important. This required working with folks at the state level, working together to create these opportunities for students. I look forward to helping support our community and the amazing students, teachers, and staff in the Chicago Regional School District. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming out tonight, especially in these conditions. My name is Jessica Haggett. I have been a lifelong New Hampshire resident for a few years, though I moved to Belmont in 2013. I have a daughter who graduated from Belmont last year, and my son Wyatt, who is currently a junior You can find me most every night at one of the sporting events. The girls, the boys, does not matter. I'm there cheering them on, supporting them, driving to one venue or another, just to support our schools. We're very, very proud of our sportsmanship award that we've earned, and I continue to hope that we can instill those values through the school board as well. I have some experience being on a school board of sorts. I sat on policy council for Head Start for Merrimack County, an elected position where I sat for a term. I was then nominated and voted on to the National Head Start Association Policy Council, where I sat as the New Hampshire State Representative for a term. Unfortunately, I was unable to continue that to a 5-year term because I moved to Shaker Regional, and now I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue working through our board to advocate for state funding. While we make decisions locally, the reality is that a substantial portion of our school budget is shaped by decisions made in Concord. The level of state aid that we receive impacts our property taxes, the programs that we can offer, the supports that we can offer, and provide to the opportunities available to our students. As a school board member, hopefully, I believe that our responsibility is twofold. We must be careful, transparent stewards of every dollar that's entrusted to us. Our community deserves thoughtful budgeting, long-term planning, and clear communication about where our funds go and why. We must be strong advocates for our district at the state level. Our students deserve fair funding, and our taxpayers deserve a system that is equitable and sustainable. Selection is about more than the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about protecting educational quality, supporting our teachers and staff, and ensuring that every student in Shaker Regional has opportunities to succeed while respecting the financial realities of our community. I'm committed to balanced, responsible leadership that keeps students at the center of every decision, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you guys so much.
Good evening. My name is Mark Eckberg. I'm just finishing up my first term, our first 3-year term on the board. It's been a pleasure working with Alice and what she brings to the table with being incredibly analytical when it comes to policy and the policy review. Many of you, if you watch any of the school board meetings, there's probably no doubt on where I stand and what positions I take and the experience that I bring to the table. I'm a product of the Shaker Regional School District. I've taught spent 23 years in public education, ranging from school districts that were in the 20,000 student range, all the way down to where there was 150 students in the entire district up in Pittsburgh when I was principal there. I've worked under virtually every schedule known to man within the public school system, from blocks to 7-period day, modified block, alternating schedules, waterfall, you name it. I've experienced it. I have a lot of experience with competencies, the pitfalls of competencies, the various different grading systems from traditional Carnegie to the current 1 through 4 system. There's goods and bads of both. They work in some situations, not in others. Very much looking forward to an additional 3-year term. As Alice said, it's pretty important coming up for the contract renewal. We need to be able to sit down with the CBA and come to an agreement on what expectations are versus what we can offer as a district, what we can offer as a community, and what we can offer as taxpayers. We're in a somewhat of a precarious situation where we need to be looking at enrollments, we need to be looking at staffing, we need to be looking at state funding, local funding, and we're all basically in a perfect storm right now. And I bring a lot of experience. I bring a lot of different, knowledge sets and skill sets to the table. And hopefully I get some votes and we can continue with my second tenure. Thank you.
Okay, so we've met our candidates. Speaker's loud in my ear if I stand over there, sorry. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask of our school board candidates? Can you yell it from there, or do you want me to bring you a microphone?
Oh, I'm pretty loud.
I can hear you just fine.
I have a question for Mark Eckberg, and my question is it true that you've never voted in favor of a school budget while on your time at the board?
Great, so Mark has 2 minutes to answer.
That is not correct. The first year I did vote for the budget. I voted for the budget with some, I guess, expectation or understanding that some of the information that multiple members of the board and I requested as far as enrollments and student load in classes would be provided to us. That information was extremely difficult to obtain. The second year of this tenure, we were given that information the exact same night that the budget needed to be pushed forward. Because there was such a delay in that information, I could not vote yes on the budget. This year, our proposed is significantly less than the default budget. I would be a fool to not vote for the proposed. We did a lot of work on this budget. Some of the cuts can be interpreted as positive. Some of the cuts people are going to interpret it as negative. But my number one concern is that we use the resources that we have, whether they're physical resources or people resources or curriculum resources. We need to use it efficiently before I'm ready to blindly fund and blindly vote for budgets.
Okay, over here.
Lisa Carlson, I would like each of the candidates to give their opinions about the positives and the negatives that you see about the concept of open enrollment.
Good question. All right, so we'll start with Alice and work our way down the line again. You can go first, next question.
I like how you did that.
That was good.
So open enrollment is, as it stands right now, the current bill that has been put forth, there are a lot of plot holes in it. There's a lot, it leaves a lot to be desired. So I actually am one of the school board members who did go ahead and sign a open letter to our governing bodies to not support open enrollment at this time, simply until we get some of the questions answered. I do feel that open enrollment is in fact coming. I think that it is something that will eventually get put through, which it's, as it stands right now, it's a little harder to give you some of the positives, but I think that should we fix what is currently proposed, there are a lot of options for students. It opens up for smaller communities like ours to go to other districts that may have other opportunities. So I do think that is a positive. However, as it stands currently, there again are just a lot of plot holes with it. It would effectively limit the way that it is right now. It would make it very difficult for communities like ours that are smaller to be receiving districts unless we make ourselves more marketable. So I think that you would see some students leave. We might get a couple based on certain things that we do pretty well. I know that we have a fantastic robotics program. I know that there are plenty of other programs within Belmont that are fantastic. But I do think that this would maybe benefit some of the larger districts as opposed to some of the smaller ones.
So, I'm not well versed on the technical of it, but looking at it, from a standpoint, like my first thought is you need to make your district have something that offers something that students want to come into. And my experience with the Hewitt Technical Center is actually a really good resource for our districts, right? So I think we see our population over there Belmont is our second largest sending school that sends students over to us, so they do a good job taking advantage of getting the kids over and getting them an opportunity in the career side of things. It's unfortunately a lot of times things like this, they come down to money, right? So it becomes a money issue, and the cost to the sending districts and the cost of the districts, the money coming into receiving districts. That's really where I think where the tie-up is on it. Again, is anything going to ever be perfect? Probably not. No, I mean, not everybody's going to always be happy with the way things go, but you got to kind of take care of your own yard to make sure it's somewhere that students want to stay, students don't want to leave. Maybe students want to come to for other opportunities. So, I think you got to kind of look at it from that perspective for the kids. So, thanks.
Kind of like Alice, at this point, there is somewhat left to be desired to say in the positives of open enrollment. I think we've kind of always had the ability to go to a different school and pay a tuition of sorts. Whether that's now a law that it has to be available to students or not is a different story. I personally oppose open enrollment in New Hampshire schools currently because I believe it risks weakening the very foundation of the public education system. Our schools are deeply connected to the communities that they serve. They're funded, supported, and shaped by all of us as taxpayers and the families that invested and have been making them strong. Open enrollment shifts that balance by redirecting students to other communities and the funding attached to them away from their home districts, often creating financial instability for smaller and rural schools that are already operating on state budgets. Open enrollment is often framed as offering choices, but in practice it creates inequities. Families with more resources, flexible transportation, and time are typically better positioned to take advantage of these options. Meanwhile, students from lower income families and those without reliable transportation don't exactly have that same access, which can widen the achievement gaps rather than close them. I believe in strengthening all public schools rather than encouraging a system where schools compete for students and funding. Our focus should be on investing in every community school so that families feel confident in their local option and not creating a structure that may gradually undermine it. So thank you.
Open enrollment right now it's a huge gray area. I know Alice has presented some of the information to the board. She has done a lot of research and a lot of reading on it. The problem with open enrollment right now is because we don't know what it's going to look like, people are trying to guess and they're starting to already generate policy on it. So in my opinion, there's probably some potential goods. Everyone is going to look at the potential bads of it right now. But a lot of it comes down to the logistics behind it and what it's going to cost. And for us to be starting to outline what the pitfalls of it are and what the potential goods are is going to be really difficult. And I don't want to not answer your question, but we can guess and speculate, all we want. But at the end of the day, we have no idea what it's going to look like, and we can have a lot of opinions on it, and those opinions probably won't matter until the legislative body starts making some decisions. When I just brought up the logistics behind it, that the logistics is probably going to be the hardest part of working through open enrollment, whether it be transportation, whether it be funding. New Hampshire is 100% unique in how it funds education. The money is generated locally, it stays locally, it's spent locally. No other state does it like New Hampshire. Vermont's a close second, but all the money still goes to the state and then comes back on a per pupil basis. Many other states study New Hampshire and how they fund education because overall we're spending less money per student than many other states. How is that going to fit into open enrollment? I don't know. This is going to be a big question mark on how we work through it. and what we do with it, and what we're accepting, and what we're not accepting.
All right, next question, right here in front.
For each of you, in this next term on the school board, what would be your top 3 priorities?
Start with Mark this time.
Top 3 priorities, the number 1 priority is going to be a negotiation year coming up in year 2. That is probably going to occupy a large portion of our time resources. Number 2 is I would like to see the district start having some academic goals, being part of a strategic plan, being part of superintendent goals. As a board, we tell the superintendent's office and the superintendent which direction we want to go. And it's up to the superintendent to drive the ship and get us there. We need to do a better job of that. We need to do a better job at giving direction. We need to do a better job at having higher expectations. We look at all of the performance data that comes in, and it's rough. You really have to dig into it, but you can follow a grade level through the various years of testing. And some of these grade levels are pretty bad. Some of the academic performance is pretty bad. And that we need to have mechanisms in place that are going to solve those problems and are going to start increasing the academic performance of students. Nothing in life gives you a better opportunity than a great basic education. And that's what we need to offer, and that should be what our team, you asked for 3, but those are my main goals. And if we can be successful at that, I doubt that we'd have much time, left over for a number 3 goal.
Thank you. I think I kind of mentioned a lot of it sort of in my how to get to know me section. I do, I guess my number 1 goal is to keep the students at the center of every one of our decisions. We are entrusted with their education and their whole experience through our school system, and I think it's really important that we are making sure that we're giving them every opportunity to do the best they possibly can. Being a local taxpayer, I'd say my second goal is to make sure that we're looking at our budget and making sure that we're using it to the absolute fullest of our potential. Maintaining those strong academic programs, supporting those students with special needs. I think we hear a lot in the community pages, a lot of criticism about some of our programs, and I think that we as a board would need to look at that objectively and see where we can make adjustments to make sure that we're advocating for every one of our students, investing in our facilities. I think we look around and see where things can be updated and facilities that need some love. So I hope that we can do that. And in my third goal of, again, keeping taxes affordable for residents. And I'm very sorry I keep nodding down on there. So thank you guys so much. Sure.
Sure. So so goals. I have to agree with just with the first part with student based, right? And part of that with teacher contracts coming up and all those things. Keeping excellent teachers that are here, attracting new teachers is pretty important because they spend the most time in the day with the students, right? They have a direct impact on them daily. Having good programming for the students that will that's pertinent to what's happening and changing in the world, and allowing them to go on and be successful after they leave high school. I think that's important to keep track of that kind of stuff. Again, I'm a Belmont resident, so I understand tax burden, right? We pay a lot of money in taxes, both in Belmont and Canterbury. So making sure that we're taking care of taxpayers and using not only, doing the best you can to limit what you're taking, but to use what you're taking wisely, right? I think that would be a goal there. And You know, a third goal is, I really, you know, I think those things are kind of a big focus for me, is making sure we provide our students with the best opportunity that we can, and then paying for that, right? And paying for that in a financial way that makes sense and is not wasteful. Thank you.
So, three things that I think that we should focus on. Firstly is, like Mark, the collective bargaining agreement is going to take up a large portion of this first part of this next term. The collective bargaining agreement is something that we lock ourselves into for 4 years with teachers, and it really affects the tax rate for all of us. So that's something that I think is going to be a large focus for, at the very least, the next year. Secondly, I think that open enrollment, again, is one of those things that is very top of mind for most people, and honestly, lots of legislation that's coming through. There's a lot of things that come through the House and come through the Senate that affect our students, that affect our taxpayers. And I think that focusing on some of that, that's something that I've advocated for I don't even know, we've definitely been bringing it up for the last year, right? Yeah. The legislative subcommittee or a legislative liaison to sort of help navigate that. The third thing that I think we can do is probably to communicate better with some of the community members. And I just think that families don't necessarily fully understand the breadth of what we offer as a school district. So making sure that our programs and opportunities are available and out there so that people can sort of build a sense of pride and you know, support our students and be proud of what they're paying their taxes for.
Thank you. All right, okay, we're here.
I'm wondering if each of you would talk about another piece of legislation that either has passed this year, well, it couldn't pass because it'd be going on to the other house, but a piece of legislation that is being considered that you are watching because we know it won't have an impact on our school system, whether you think positively, please share that view, or negatively, please share that.
Okay, so you're not asking about a specific legislation, you're asking about one that they're watching and their feelings about it. Perfect.
So my biggest one currently is, again, I'm gonna harp on that open enrollment. It's open enrollment.
Oh, besides, okay,
So that's, I understand, but that is my main focus right now. That is something that I am watching very, very closely. And yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it as it stands. Again, I've signed that open letter to our state legislators that says, hey, we need to look at this a little more closely because this right now is not effective. There's too many questions. So that is very, very important to me right now.
It's a hard question. It's a good question. To be honest with you, I probably do not have a piece of state legislation that I've been watching as far as education goes. You know, I'm kind of new to the political side of this and to the community side with the school board stuff. You know, that being said, I understand the requirements and what needs to be done, you know, as a school board member and keeping up with those things and learning about those things. But, you know, I think at this point, I really don't have a piece of legislation that I've been following as far as education goes. You know, one thing I do keep up with, and again, it goes back to me being a technical education teacher. So I kind of track that stuff and look at those things because, you know, they affect me day to day at my job at the tech center, and they also affect all our students that come over there. And I do have to say that they, you know, with things looking the way they are, funding wise, that is a bright spot. I think they kind of take care of us at the CPE level in making sure that we're funded that way. It's funded a little different than the school district. So, you know, that being said, I guess that's something I need to look a little more into, a little more depth. Appreciate your question.
We all do it. And I'm sure, so I will also do it again, so I apologize as well, but like Mike, being relatively new to the idea of sitting on a school board, I do not also have any current legislation that I am following other than, say, the open enrollment, which I am the one who is speaking on another topic. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have current legislation that I am following. I can speak a little bit from when I was sitting on the Head Start Association Policy Council and how I had to sort of jump through hoops in order to get funding and for that program. And it was down to the point where we did not know the next day if we were going to be able to open the facility. And it took me going directly to one of our congressmen, and it was about fifth in line to speak with him, and you could just see glazed over, was not hearing anything. My mother-in-law was secretary of his for about 30 years, and so I spoke to him about the fact that his secretary's granddaughter was a member of that preschool, and he did not approve legislation in order for us to have funding. We weren't going to have a daycare for her the next day. And lo and behold, all of a sudden the light bulb went off in the burger store. Sometimes I think that when you get down to concrete, sometimes they just don't hear our stories until we get in their face and we make them hear us. So, although, like I said, I don't have anything currently that I'm following, I know that I will if elected, and I will make sure that I get in the faces of legislators and make sure that they hear our stories and have to do it for our students in our community. So thank you.
I'm going to go with probably the most interesting topic with the legislation for me is the general funding of schools throughout the state. When I was in my master's program out in Idaho, we specifically studied the state of New Hampshire. I referenced that in the previous question. I'm going to lump unfunded mandates into that category as well. The legislation is difficult. The taxation process doesn't really exist at the state level to be able to fund public education appropriately or adequately. There's been communities that have sued the state and won and said, yes, this is, the state is not funding things, appropriately or adequately. And that was part of a decade ago, I think. Claremont went through that, maybe even more than a decade at this point. And so that's extremely interesting to me. I'm not standing here and saying our current funding process is appropriate, but I'm also not saying that it's inappropriate, because the different states that I've worked in and the different funding sources that I've experienced, it's pretty interesting to explain to other people in other states when you say, yeah, our money is raised locally, it stays local, it doesn't have any other hands in it, with a little bit of donor districts, donor towns, mixed in there. But it's that legislation I enjoy reading about, I enjoy following, and after decades, there doesn't seem to be still any good answers because they don't change the funding sources.
Okay, so in the interest of time, that's all the questions we'll take for the school board right now. We'll keep going through the other candidates. Belmont School Board candidates, thank you so much for coming. You are welcome to stay for the rest, or you are welcome to go home. Please drive safe going home. We appreciate you coming. And then if they stick around and we have more questions and time at the end, then we can entertain those at that time. Okay, next position is for the cemetery trustee. There is one seat open and 2 people running. This is one of 2 contested races in Canterbury this year. Our candidates are John Weberski. He goes by Jack if you meet him in town, but on the ballot he will be John Weberski. And then we also have John Gogol, who was unable to attend this evening. So John, if you would join me on the stage, please. Grab your name tag. Thank you, and go ahead and take 3 minutes and introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself and show my interest to be a cemetery trustee. Just a little background about myself. Just recently moved into the area late September. And one of the reasons my wife and I moved to this area is to become active members of the community. And one of the first things I did as walking around town was visit the cemetery, the Central Cemetery over there. And I've always been interested in history, and some may find this odd, cemeteries because of the history, because of how it honors those that are buried there. Whether it was when I was living in Northern Virginia, used to go to Arlington, whether when I grew up in the Midwest, visiting the graves of my great-grandparents, I always appreciated the history that cemeteries provide. And one of the things that struck me was walking through the cemetery, seeing the grave of someone who fought at the Battle of Bunker Hill, right? And when I looked into the cemetery trustee position, one thing that really intrigued me was you have the Central Cemetery, you have the Maple Grove Cemetery, but you always have 30 other historical cemeteries. And what are those being preserved to honor people who are buried there? Just a little bit about my background. Like I said, recently moved from Northern California. I have a master's degree in industrial labor relations. Did high-scale labor negotiations on the West Coast. I'm semi-retired now. And if I was elected to the position, I would really put an emphasis on, one, preserving the beautification. Also making sure the plots are maintained. Also understanding that there's an operational aspect, a maintenance aspect, right? Providing private burial plots. I think another thing I could provide is, I also have a degree in accounting. I understand budgeting, finance. But I think, my emphasis would be on preservation and beautification for those that are, the plots that are there. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? We can take 1 or 2 questions if anybody has any questions for John. Beth?
Beth Blair. I'm just curious if you've reached out at all to find out the volunteer effort that's already in place in town for helping to preserve the historic cemetery.
I have not reached out. I've read the minutes of the last several meetings. But I know the effort, but I have not reached out.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
All right,
Great, thank you, John.
thank you.
Okay, next position is for planning board. There are 3 seats open on our planning board in town, and there is two seats. Okay, sorry. There are 2 seats open and only 1 person running. So that leaves an open seat for write-ins if you or somebody you know would like that. This evening, we have our candidate Logan Snyder with us. Logan, if you would like to come in and come up and introduce yourself.
Logan's here.
No, okay, I'm sorry. Logan did not make it this evening. So there won't be any questions for him.
That's
Okay, Next one.
We have extra time.
So we're gonna make up time. Next position open is supervisor of the checklist. There is one seat open and one person running. And Suzanne Williams are here this evening. Perfect, thank you, come on up. 2 minutes and introduce yourself. Thank you.
I'm on the ballot as Suzanne Williams, but I go by the name of Sue Williams. So, just a little bit about myself. I've been a member of the community here in town for about 31 years. My husband is a native of Canterbury, and we live on Hackerville Road. We have 3 children. All 3 have gone through the Canterbury Elementary School and Belmont High School. We're proud members of the community, and I wanted to put my name forward to be able to give back to my community. My experience, I have over 28 years of experience in customer service. I worked for an insurance company for many years, managed a call center. In that, had to meet some state requirements, so I'm very familiar with mandates and quality control. I also have retired about 3.5 years ago from managing a family practice residency program in Concord. And within that role, also maintained some government or state contracts around different aspects of maintaining quality primary care. So I pride myself on being a multitasker, a strong attention to detail. And I think the thing that I take the most pride in is the ability to maintain confidentiality. And I think in this role, it's really important to stay neutral and to maintain confidentiality at all times. I will admit that I'm new to the role and would need to learn more about the statutes and requirements. But I also understand that with the changing political environment, it is going to be extremely important that we help our citizens maintain the right to vote and to vote easily. So that's a little bit about myself.
Any questions? Go ahead. Oh, here. Have a second one over to you.
I have a question, well, it's kind of morphed into.
Yeah, no, I didn't think Martha talked that loud. You're doing great.
It was gonna be a question, but since you're new to the checklist, it's gonna be more of a concern. Last year, the New Hampshire legislature passed a new requirement for registering to vote. And it's particularly for anybody who's changed their last name, you're gonna have to go through the hoops to be able to vote. So my concern is whether or not the Secretary of State's office is going to provide support.
It's an excellent question. I think coming into this role, I will have the benefit of working with 2 other very qualified supervisors with checklist who have far more experience than I do. And I feel confident in working with Denise and Pam that we will become familiar with that requirement and do everything we can to make sure that there are no impediments to voting because of something as simple as last name.
Right, because it's not gonna be something that you can change or correct the day of voting. It's gonna be heavy.
Yes, great question.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thanks so much. Okay, next position is for Selectmen. There is one seat open and one person running. So Scott, come up and join me, please. Take a few minutes, introduce yourself to the room. Oh, yes, thank you.
You're not Sue. It changes his name based on the hectare boy. I know.
So hello, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Scott Doherty. My wife and I live on Sanborn Road and own and operate Sanborn Meadow Farms. Some of you I know have bought our greens in the store at the farmer's market and our eggs. And Kathy's gonna kick me if I don't say they're still available at the farmers. So I am newly retired. I retired in May from the State Fire Academy. I was one of the chiefs there. And before that, did about 30 years in public safety in New York. So I am still one of the town's, I think 3 now, paramedics, deputy chief of the fire department. And John, wherever he is, my wife and I are volunteer cemetery keepers on Pickard Road at the East and West Cemetery still. So educationally, I've got a bachelor's degree in management and economics and master's degree in public administration. So most of my background is in leadership. So I've had a great career, newly retired, so trying to fill some of the hours, and certainly the select board is a great place to do that. So I've also done time in the planning board here, about 5 years there. So we've been very active here in town. I think that's it. Yes.
Who's got questions? Randy. Scott, since your first term is coming to an end, what are the biggest things that you learned from those 3 years, and what are you most looking forward to doing in the upcoming?
So I think, I'm not sure I really learned it. I think coming in, once again, 40 or so years in public safety, and you have to learn to work with all kinds of groups, even if you don't agree with them. And I think that, that's been one of the keys to success, that I've found, certainly. Things are not nearly as contentious here as they were perhaps when I worked at the state or worked in other places, but, people are very passionate about certain topics. So, and what was the second part of the question, Randy? I'm sorry.
What are you most looking forward to for the next 3 years?
Looking forward to. That's an interesting way to put it. So, we have, I think 3 challenges really. Recruitment and retention of our employees, I see as one of the top. We just have outstanding employees here in town, and I'd like to keep them. And that is a trick. Thank you. That is a trick in this economy. The law enforcement professionals that we have here in town, the police officers, there's a term called poaching, and that's when other departments offer them higher salaries or better benefits than we can. So it's a very difficult thing sometimes to walk that line between, keeping low taxes and doing right by our employees. Second is development. I think that people are starting to see Canterbury now as a place to become. As you all know, we say development going up very shortly at exit 18. So that's another challenge. So I think I'm about out of time, so I'll stop there.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of development, what's your thoughts on how you balance the desire? Development's going to come one way or another, but what's your approach you might take to balance development, but also to maintain some of the agricultural heritage and maintaining the community that we have, that we so enjoy and appreciate?
Right. So I'll certainly gladly give you my opinion, but that's really a function of the planning board, the ZBA, the Historic District Commission, and the Conservation Commission here in town. The select board really doesn't get involved in development per se. But certainly my opinion, and one of the reasons that Kathy and I moved here was because this is a rural agricultural town. We're farmers at the end of the day, so that to us is very important. Now, having said that, we have two areas in town, exit 17 and exit 18, which are zoned commercial at exit 17 and industrial at exit 18. And those, I think, are ripe for development. So that would be a way to bring in tax dollars from businesses and still keep our rural culture moving. That's what it is.
Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Right. All right, we moved from running behind to 12 minutes ahead, so thank you everybody for that. And last on the agenda is trustee of the trust funds. There is one seat open and one seat running, one person running. Did I skip library trustee?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go backwards. Sorry about that. Let's go to library trustee. There are 2 seats open and 3 people running. Debbie Snow and Florence Woods were unable to attend this evening, so with us we have Jennifer Waberski. Jennifer, would you join me on stage and take a few minutes and introduce yourself? In last position, I was like, wait a minute, I skipped something. Sorry about that.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Waberski. I'm going to give you the shorter background because you already heard from my husband. We moved here recently from Northern California. About myself personally, my background is I was born in Massachusetts and I went to UConn Law School. Part of the reason we chose New Hampshire in this area is it's closer to my parents who are still in Massachusetts. And I work as an attorney. I specialize in utility regulation on behalf of small businesses and previously on behalf of residential consumers. Part of my interest with running for the library trustee is I remember getting my library card as a child. I remember when my mom brought me to the library. I was 4 years old. I loved the library as a kid. One of the things I looked forward most when we had our daughter was getting her library card. She was about 4 years old. You got her library card. We were just a library family. We were library kids. I think there's something magical about a library. When I saw that there was an opening for a library trustee, that's why I wanted to use my volunteer time there. I think particularly for our community, the importance of a well-funded library for Canterbury, it's not just the books. It's the programs, it's the children's programs, it's the adult programs, it's the technical help. It is a community for us. I think what it provides to Canterbury cannot be replaced. I think it has to be well-funded. I think the staff has to be supported. I think particularly with some of the last 2 pieces of legislation that have been passed in New Hampshire, there needs to be support for the staff as they respond to the legislation of there can now be, I'm going to say, how delicately should I say this? There's less freedom in the library than there used to be. And that has to be responded to in a legal manner, but also in a way that preserves the love and freedom of the library. That's why I chose to know. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Martha?
So I'm still new at following legislation. There's like 1,000 bills this year. Can you clarify what bills you're talking about?
Sure. So there were 2 recent, thank you. I'm sorry. So I was specifically referring to 2 bills. One is parental access to records. I have the HV numbers if you want to, I can give those to you later. And what it does is it requires libraries to disclose the borrowing records of minors to their parents if they request it. They used to be confidential. Now, that's not just school libraries, that's public libraries as well. And the second piece of legislation is it allows material review of obscene material. So there can be a legislation passed, this is both for school and public libraries, that a parent can come in and challenge the content of the book on the shelf. With more ease than was previously available. So these are, in my opinion, two pretty drastic pieces of legislation that libraries are going to have to deal with.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for forgiving me for accidentally skipping. Okay, so now the last one. Promise the last one this time. The trustee of the trust funds. There is one seat open and one person running. Is Greg Heath here? No, okay, so he was unable to make it. So there won't be introductions and questions at this time. Which brings me then to closing. Thank you everyone again for coming out on our snowy Tuesday evening. Appreciate your time. Thank you for the Canterbury Citizens for Democracy for supporting this event. And then a couple friendly reminders coming up. The first session of the 2026 town meeting will be a week from today, Tuesday, March 10th at the Canterbury Town Hall where we currently are. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and we will vote to elect officials and decide on zoning changes. And then the second session of the 2026 town meeting will be Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th, at Canterbury Elementary School, beginning at 7 p.m. And this is where we discuss and vote on the annual budget and any warrant articles that are up for grabs. You can get your copies of the annual report at the following locations for anybody that would like to have them to review before elections. They are at the Sam Lake House, the Canterbury store / post office lobby. So the store isn't open, but there are copies in the front of the post office there. Elkins Public Library, the Municipal Center, the transfer station, and then if you prefer electronic, it's also available on the town website. That's all I have. Does anybody have any parting comments, questions, concerns?
Just a question, are there any new ID cards or identification we're supposed to bring to this election?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
Read about them and wonder. Okay.
No, there's a lot of talk going on, but nothing required.
You do need to bring one.
You do need.
Yes, you need to bring your ID, but not as special, just your valid driver's license / photo ID. Yes, Beth?
Don't forget to get snacks at the farmer's market table in the back before meeting begins.
Oh, yes, you did ask me to mention that. I'm so sorry. Yes, please visit your farmer's market table at the back of the town.
Gotta have
on
snacks.
Friday the 13th. All right, anybody else? All right, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Kate.